to Eye on Horror, the official podcast of iHorror.com. This is episode 125, otherwise known as season 7, episode 6. I am your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, is your other host, Jacob Davison. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing good. Back from my trip on the East Coast and feeling a little jet lag, but good to be back.
Yeah, we're going to hear more about your trip because we're going to talk about Salem Horror Fest today. But before we get to that, let's welcome your other host, John Correia. How you doing, Correia?
Great. It's early, but I'm awake-ish.
It's getting harder and harder to find a time when we can all three do this, huh?
Yeah, which is weird because I almost never leave the house. So
it doesn't mean you don't work. I don't leave the house, but I'm always working.
That's why I don't leave the house. You work from home is great. Remote work is great. I don't miss being on set at all.
I am embracing the hell out of my slippers all day and, dog on my lap while I work.
The wardrobe is giving, I mean, I've been wearing my Mystic Museum Y2 Kills sweatpants joggers for the last week and a half, and it's fantastic. But enough about my hygiene. Let's talk about horror.
There hasn't been a ton of stuff that's come out since last time we talked, but
what are you talking about?
But there have been some important things. And the big thing that I think all three of us have seen, so let's start right off with a bang. I saw the TV Glow.
Oh, yes.
This was one of our most anticipated from our preview of 2024 episode. What'd you guys think?
I felt attacked.
Yeah, no, I also felt attacked as a 90s kid.
Yeah, felt very attacked.
Just reached out of the scream and grabbed me by the throat.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, what a great year for sophomore efforts from filmmakers. Rose Glass killed it with Love Lies Bleeding, and Jane Shuburn absolutely killed it with I Saw the TV Glow. But for what we're all going to the World's Fairs was for creepypastas, this movie was for depressed millennials who grew up on Are You Afraid of the Dark and Pete and Pete and all that.
It got a wide demo on that one. Yeah, and it definitely emphasized itself as a trans allegory, but also I feel that it's relatable for anybody who grew up particularly in suburbia in the 90s.
I liked it. I didn't love it. I was expecting more from it. And here's the thing. I actually did love it until the ending. And I was not a fan of the ending. And the thing is about this movie is it follows one of the characters basically from 7th grade until his mid 40s. And as soon as it gets to the part where it says 20 years later, and then he's in his 40s, that's where I think it kind of, I don't know, it didn't work as well for me. Up until that point, I was loving it. And I was just on the edge of my seat, and I'm like, oh yeah, please stick this landing. Please stick this landing. And for me, it didn't quite stick that landing because, I mean, it's visually just a stunning movie. It's purely a Jane Schoenbrunn movie visually. I mean, it's got that same neon shadow thing that We're All Going to the World's Fair had. The score and the soundtrack, both the diegetic music and the score, are just incredible. But yeah, I mean, I loved it until the ending, and I'm not going to spoil the ending because there's not that much to spoil, I guess. But I was just not. It wasn't very satisfying of an ending for me. Which honestly, the movie's about a couple of kids who are unsatisfied with the ending of their favorite TV show. So maybe that was part of the point, that it's an unsatisfying ending.
Yeah, without going too deep into it, I also feel that the ending ties into the trans metaphor, but also I think just, and again, it also works on kind of a general connection of the malaise or dissatisfaction of growing up, and Jonathan was saying, being a depressed millennial. And I also want to talk a little bit about the show within the movie, The Pink Oak Pig, because that show looked awesome, and I would have definitely been as obsessed with the Pink Opaque if I had watched it as a kid.
Well,
Oh
the
man.
funny thing about it is and I'm wondering if this would be the same thing because I haven't gone back and watched a lot of those shows that I grew up on really, but when it does go to 20 years later, he goes back and he watches his videotapes of the show, and and it's so funny because even what they show him watching is this really cheesy thing, and it's the same. It's just like the way they edited it becomes this cheesy, childish show, whereas what he's watching as a seventh grader, it was actually pretty eerie.
Oh no, that's where I felt the most attacked. Because in early in the movie when they're showing the Pink Opaque, like there is that kind of 90s Canadian produced Nickelodeon aesthetic to it, but it's done really scary. Like Mr. Melancholy was fucking terrifying for that finale bit in the movie. And it was like really great effects. Like when they first showed it on the Ice Cream Man with everything, it was like, oh wow, this is like big budget version of that. And then they do like a 20 years later, it's all available on streaming. So I watched it again the other day, and they show it for like what it really is, which is just like really cheap and cheesy and just like not great, and like felt personally attacked by that. Because when Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark first hit streaming, I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I was watching, I'm like, I remember being way more scared by this as a kid and being way more into it. But I was that kid. I was that kid that couldn't watch Are You Afraid of the Dark because it was on when my parents got home. There were no kids stuff on TV. It wasn't that it was too scary. So I used to have a friend that would call me after Are You Afraid of the Dark came on, and he would tell me what happened in that episode that week. And so I related to that really hard, and I was just like, you got to stop attacking. But also Mr. Melancholy, that was terrible. That guttural scream at the end, though, like I again don't want to get into spoiling the ending, but there's a scream towards the end that just like hit in the chest really hard. Like I felt that. Like I felt like I've either done that scream in my life or have needed to release that. It was a lot. It was a lot.
The ending to me, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Love Lies Bleeding, whereas you're not sure how much of it is actually real and how much of it is in the character's head. But I think Love Lies Bleeding did it a lot better, or at least a lot more entertainingly. But yeah, I mean, I liked the movie. I was expecting to love it. And actually, I did love it. I think I was just a little let down. I might have expected more from the ending, but and
in terms of new releases, I saw Infested. You guys hear about this? That French killer spider movie?
I've heard about it. When people will be talking about Sting, they talk about Infested.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Sting, but yeah, Infested was goddamn terrifying.
Big year for killer spiders.
Oh yeah. It's kind of the Armageddon and Deep Impact of spider releases this year.
Spiders and monkeys.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Okay, now we just need a movie about a spider monkey.
Just you wait. Give me 50 grand in 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, just Infested somehow made me even more terrified of spiders, and it's by Sebastian Vanitsek. He's going to be doing the next Evil Dead, or one of the next Evil Dead. So I wanted to see what his work was all about to inspire Sam Raimi to give him that opportunity. And man, I am looking forward to it because this movie was goddamn terrifying. It's basically about this punk who buys a like black market spider for his like little collection of animals in his rundown tenement, and of course it gets out, but it's like this like hyper advanced like spider that breeds super fast, and it gets bigger and bigger with every spider that births more spiders. So they get trapped in the apartment, and then like there's a quarantine, so him and his friends have to fight their way out. And there's this insane sequence where they gotta make their way through a hallway just covered in webbing and spiders, and it is just so intense. And there is a few bits of dark comedy to it that I can see why Sam Raimi saw this. Like, yeah, I want this guy to do an Evil Dead movie.
Well, how can you not have dark comedy on a killer spider movie, though?
Oh yeah, no, just somebody opens the big box of spiders. It's still funny.
That's interesting. It does sound like the Armageddon and Deep Impact of Killer Spider movies with Sting, because it sounds a lot like. Are there any Die Hard sized air vents in it that they crawl through?
No, although the spiders start to die hard their way through the building and get through the vents.
Oh, well, yeah, it does say. Where can you see it? Is this streaming somewhere, or is it in theaters right now?
I don't think it's streaming right now. I saw it at Alamo Drafthouse. Or actually, no, wait, it's streaming on Shudder. Yeah,
it is on Shudder. Okay, I was going to
Shudder.
say this sounds like a Shudder movie. Okay, cool.
No, I definitely recommend it, and especially if you want a taste of what to expect from Sebastian Vanisek's Evil Dead movie, I feel like this is a pretty good primer.
Killer spiders and monkeys. So let's move to monkeys. I know Correia has a story about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Did you see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Jacob?
No, I haven't had the chance.
Okay, I saw it. It's pretty good as far as these Planet of the Apes movies go. It's not the best of the franchise, meaning the four newer ones. I still think that Dawn is the best, but for me, the third act had a little bit of pacing, but that's because I just expect more from my third acts. I expect them to be like a roller coaster that you can't get off, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes kind of doesn't do that. But it's a Planet of the Apes movie. It's got the amazing visuals that it normally does, and it's set generations. That's what it says. Generations after Caesar. So it's a couple hundred years later. And so the apes they're building their civilization. They don't quite have the technology that people do, but it's only been 200 years. And people are, with the exception of a handful of them, they're pretty much mute now. They're basically the primates of they're the apes of the new world, and the apes are the people.
And it's still a couple hundred years before Heston and them land on the planet too. It's like in the middle of it, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's funny because I rewatched, just to make sure that I was up to date. I rewatched Rise, Dawn, and War before this, and it's funny because I have gone the last few years thinking that Dawn is War, because Dawn is more of a war movie than War for the Planet of the Apes is. So, and I don't know what I thought War was. But for some reason, when I got to Dawn, because I watched them in order, and I'm like, wait, this one where they're shooting machine guns and driving tanks is not War for the Planet of the Apes. So I was getting confused with those. But during Rise of the Planet of the Apes, they kept going back to that rocket that's going to go up into space, that they launch up into space.
Yeah, and then they have the newspaper that says "Lost in Space." Oh yeah.
So
it's the Icarus.
Through all four of these movies now, I guess I've been expecting that to land and have that moment of them land and have it, and it hasn't happened yet. I mean, nope. Minor spoiler for Kingdom. It hasn't happened yet.
Again, it's set hundreds of years before the Icarus is supposed to land anyway. So, and I think the director of Kingdom has said that this is supposed to be the start of a new trilogy, but also like their hopes is that they're not really going to remake the original Planet of the Apes so much as have like the franchise ultimately lead into it. Which that excites me because it's like, so are the apes going to get more and more humanoid as we get closer to it, or like human upright standing like they are in the Heston ones, but also like the timelines get murky. But then again, that series never was really known for like the best continuity and story and history. But and because in the original series too, it was all the cats and dogs were killed, and so people took apes as pets, but then apes got smarter, and then they turned into slave labor. And I'm kind of glad that the new franchise went away with that, because it was a bit, but I did go try to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes yesterday, and it was funny because one good thing about being your own boss is sometimes you're like, wow, I don't have a whole lot of work I got to do right now. Maybe I can go catch a matinee on a Thursday. So I went and I saw the TV Glow. I hate that sentence. I saw the TV Glow. There we go. And then it was going to lead right into Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which was in the same theater. I was in the same seat. It was great. And the previews go, they do the stupid, Nicole Kidman thing. And then all of a sudden, like the screen comes up and it goes, based on a true story. And I just immediately was like, am I in the wrong theater? Because there's no way there's a Planet of the Apes movie that's based on a true story. And for a moment, I existed in a world where there is a Planet of the Apes movie that's based on a true story. And then it went from the files of Winston Churchill that were undisclosed in 2016. They started playing the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which, like, I heard someone go, "There's Nazis in this movie? I thought this was apes." And then, like, you had AMC people running around being like, "Oh, he fucked up." And they started playing the wrong movie. I guess there was a problem with the file or something. So ultimately couldn't watch Kingdom, but it's fine. It's A-list. They gave me a free popcorn voucher. It's all good. But I don't know if I'll ever recover from the fact that, like, the possibility was there that there's a Planet of the Apes movie based on a true story. And like, now I have to live in a world where that is not possible. And I'm tearing up a little bit, man. Like, that hurt. So yeah, I went home, kept working, and I instead rewatched Rise and Dawn of. I'm going to watch War this weekend before seeing Kingdom. But
give it time. These Planet of the Apes movies will be true someday.
Yeah. I got to say, first of all, I don't know if I'll be alive then, sadly. But the thing, I love the Planet of the Apes franchise. It's one of my favorite. But boy, does that franchise, like, so much of it should not work, but it does. First and foremost, that first movie should not be called Planet of the Apes. It should be called something completely different, because the way it's edited, you don't see a single fucking ape for like 20 minutes. And then when it does, it's shot and edited like it's a shocking reveal. And I imagine going to see the original Planet of the Apes, and then, like, you're just thinking it's just some sci-fi movie of astronauts crashing, and then all of a sudden the camera zooms in and the head turns and it's an ape, and you're like, wait, is this a Planet of Apes? Holy shit, it would have been cool. But also, the Planet of the Apes is a really cool title, so I'm very torn on that. But I think the biggest thing that they tried to sell is James Franco as a believable scientist in Rise, because, like, boy, was that a hard pill to swallow. Because, like, don't get me wrong, the emotional bits, he's really good with, like, John Lithgow and Caesar and all that. But there's times where he's talking about the science shit where it's just like, okay, Pineapple Express, I don't think so. Like, no, this isn't believable, man. Like, if you were talking about different weed strands, maybe, but like, but still, Dawn is really good. And Dawn's the same thing, because Dawn is so well done. Oh, dude, that opening of Dawn when they have the music homage cue to 2001, where they're going through the forest. I was sitting there. I was just like, I'm in it. And then it got to the point where I'm like, this is so beautifully done, so well done. But also there's a scene where there's a monkey dual wielding machine guns riding a horse, shooting at accomplished Shakespearean actor Gary Oldman, who's firing fucking rockets at gorillas. Like, that's stupid. That's a stupid thing I just said, but it's so good. It's so good. And that's the Planet of the Apes franchise. It's just like, this is a stupid thing that we're spending a fuck ton of money on, and it works. It works.
I tell you,
so well. The
reveal of Caesar riding a horse in Rise is one of my favorite cinematic reveals. It's right up there with the reveal of the Doof Warrior in Fury Road. It's like they're on the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's just this fog, and then he comes riding. He comes riding out on a horse. Good. You're like, yes, apes on horses,
dude. When I was watching Rise last night, because I was like very 50-50 with it, but like, man, I gotta say, there's some. I think my main issues with Rise is there's too many parts of it that feel too safe. Where it's like, oh, of course the guy in the monkey enclosure played by Draco Malfoy is going to be a bad guy. It's like you made the safe choice of picking the obvious. You know what I mean? Stuff like there's a few safe choices, but when it hits hard. Because like when Caesar says no for the first time, I got chills. Ooh, yeah. My nipples got hard. I got I got the chills. I heard Roddy McDowell telling the story of Caesar from the original Planet of the Apes franchise. Like, it just started immediately playing in my head of him saying, and he stood up and said the one word against man, no. I was like, like, it still hits hard. So like, yeah, Rise is still great. It's still a great movie, but like Dawn is, I'm looking forward to watching the next two. That's for certain.
Dawn, I think, is the most solid of the original trilogy. It's the Empire Strikes Back of the three of them. So
that's a good way of putting it.
Now, speaking of apes or ape-like creatures, I did get to finally see Sasquatch Sunset, and I gotta say, it is it cured my depression that day. Let me tell you, that was everything I ever wanted. Riley Keough deserves all the acting awards, and I'm not even being sarcastic. The fact that she was able to sell that much emotion and that much like tone through the Sasquatch makeup and prosthetics, insane. What a fantastic movie. Yeah, it was everything I ever wanted from a Sasquatch movie, which was just Sasquatches being Sasquatches, just Sam Squinches living out their life. And it's
and also, now that you've seen it, I can finally talk about probably the funniest scene in the movie to me, where the one Sasquatch gets bitten by the turtle.
Oh,
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then he starts yelling at it like it's a phone.
Yeah. my favorite part was the little Sam Squanch, because that little fucker, like there is one scene where it's this like build up scene where like the female Sam Squanch is struggling on like the shore of this river, right? And then Jesse Eisenberg's Sam Squanch is like fucking around on a log or something, and it's edited like this really like something bad's about to happen, and the scene just keeps going on and on and on. And you can't tell, is it going to be the female Sam Squanch or is it going to be the male Sam Squanch? Which one is something bad's about to happen? And the entire time, that little fucker is in the background, just like throwing rocks into the river, like not completely oblivious.
You don't mean the baby one, you mean the adolescent, because there is a baby. Yeah, there is a baby that's born. Okay,
no, the adolescent one. Yeah,
my favorite scene is still when they find the logging road and they let out every bodily fluid they possibly can all over humanity.
They're so mad about that road.
I'll be honest. My schedule is so fucked. Sometimes like micro naps happen, and I like my eyes closed for a moment. I clocked it. It was only a minute or so, and it was right before that. So I would basically head down for a moment and then went, huh. And it was literally that road scene, and I just went, the fuck. Because I mean, like, it just added to the confusion. But yeah, Sam Squinch, Sunset, best picture of the year, best actress,
and also like it's just amazing the work that went into it. Because I went to the screen with the Q&A, and they were saying that Jesse Eisenberg got the Marceau, the famous French mimes choreographer, to do all those movements for the Sam Squatches.
That's incredible. I have some charcoal drawings of Marceau in our house. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Yeah, it was just done it's done so well. Need more.
Another new release I saw. Have you guys heard about Miller's Girl?
Oh, that's that one that everyone's being all like age gap icky about, right?
Yeah, it's Martin Freeman is like an English teacher in this. It's a high school, like a prep school, and Jenna Ortega is kind of the little Lolita femme fatale senior, and minor spoiler, she kind of plays him. She's really smart. She's one of like the star pupils, and so she's like a really talented writer. So he kind of takes her under his wing and mentors her and gives her extra assignments and stuff like that. And it goes about as well as you would think between a teacher and a student. But when they make a movie about it, but it by the end of it, you're kind of feeling sorry for Martin Freeman, because he's not completely innocent, but he's also not the bad guy that he's being made out to be in a lot of ways. I don't know. It's it doesn't go completely Fatal Attraction or anything, but it's Jenna Ortega's character is pretty manipulative. Let's just say that. But yeah, it's a crazy one. It's not quite horror, but
In terms of straight up horror, I was at the 45th anniversary screening of Alien that they were doing for like AMC, and of course, still a classic. But what was cool is that before the movie, they did an interview, or rather, Fede Alvarez did an interview between himself and Ridley Scott, where they talked about the original movie and a lot of the making of the movie, and even discussed a little bit of how that played into his upcoming and our very highly anticipated Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
So I continue to be extremely hyped for it as a direct Alien film, and Yeah, also the 4K Alien DCP looks and sounds amazing. You know, you just hung on every sound. And it's just fun seeing a repertory screening like that, and just watching people get scared so badly they jump in their seats. Like, I still saw people jump during the chest burster scene.
It's so great seeing it because I went to the Egyptian screening of Alien, and it's just such a great crowd movie to watch with, especially ones that are like very attentive and into it. Like it's so fun seeing the reactions and like the scale, like when they go into the what is it, the creators room, you know, and it's a giant
Space jockey.
Space jockey, there we go. The space jockey scene, and seeing that on a giant screen is always just like incredible.
Oh yeah.
I went to a midnight screening of Alien a few years back, when the theater that did midnight screenings around here was still around. And the scene that really got people then, you know, even people who had seen the movie before, is Dallas's demise in the air vents when he,
yeah,
they're all, it's right on top of you, and he turns around and, you know, it's
yeah,
like right there. That's the scary scene. Yeah. Jazz hands. Correia's doing his jazz hands.
Yeah, and what's really scary is you don't see what happened to him, at least in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
No, it cuts right there. But you know, because it cuts to them with his flamethrower going, and this is all we found. You know? Yeah. Have either of you guys watched that Netflix series, Baby Reindeer?
No,
but I've heard a lot of the controversy or it's stuff around it.
It's weird because it is it's ostensibly it's funny because I was telling my wife about it after I was 3 episodes in, and I'm like, oh, it's a movie about a dude who gets a stalker. And then literally the next episode I watched, it turned into much more than that. And I don't want to give anything away, but basically there's this comedian he's a comedian, so he has to have a day job, and his day job is a bartender. And this woman comes into his bar and he's nice to her, so she starts stalking him, basically. And this opens up a huge floodgate of stuff in his past and hers that just all boils to the surface. And it's based on a true story that the writer, director, actor, really went through in his life. And at one point, this is where I say it, the stuff from his past that boils up. He is sexually abused by a very prominent British television writer. And that's one of the things people are trying to figure out, who this is that abused him. And people have all their theories and stuff. And this guy's not talking. He's like, no, I'm never going to say. But Correia, you said that they found the woman, the stalker. Someone found out who it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's very passing what I've been seeing about it, because I try to avoid spoilers for things I might watch, and I've been hearing good things about it, or at least that a lot of people were watching, Baby Reindeer and all that. But I have been seeing like him coming out and saying, "Hey guys, don't try to find the lady, like leave him alone," all this stuff. But like that's not going to help. That's only going to fan it. And then apparently, yeah, Pierce Morgan interviewed her, and like now she's suing Netflix for defamation and stuff because it's based on that, but like is very not true. A lot of it. I like I said, I didn't look into it too much in case of spoilers.
He's come out and said that the depiction of her in the show is not like what she is, and so that leads me to believe physically, or like her personality wise. I didn't really get the impression that the stalking was because eventually she does face consequences for it. So it must have been bad, unless the consequences were made up for the screen as well. But yeah, I can see the person that character is based on not being happy with how they're depicted.
Oh yeah, whoever wants to be depicted in that light,
as a stalker.
as a professional stalker myself, I personally wouldn't want to see.
I meant being depicted as a stalker. I wasn't saying.
Oh. Well, you're only a stalker if you get a charge, but like me and Lucy, we're cool. No. I have a new favorite movie, and it's older, and it's only loosely connected to the genres we covered. But you know what? Have you guys ever seen D.E.B.S, the spy spoof movie that came out in 2004?
No, I didn't see it, but I've heard a lot about it.
So D.E.B.S is this like Charlie's it was advertised as a low budget Charlie's Angels ripoff that was geared more towards horny male teenagers, which is why I never really watched it. I was like, this looks bad. It follows a team of teenage crime fighting super spies that are like in super spy school, and they're going after like this main villain, right? Very typical story. The advertisement is completely wrong. This movie was written, directed, and edited by a lesbian person of color. And it is so campy. It is so it has so much queer humor in it. And its central story is a love story between one of the main girls and the arch villain, who is played by Jordana Brewster. And her teammates also include like Megan Good and Devin Oki as well. And it also stars like Jimmy Simpson, Holland Taylor, Michael Clark Duncan. Like the cast is stacked, and it is so much fun. It's such a fun movie. I highly recommend seeking out D.E.B.S, and it's spelled kind of with like the periods in it, like MASH, D.E.B.S, with dots in them. But let me tell you, D.E.B.S was such a pleasant surprise. I had so much fun with it. So if you're a fan of like spy movies, Charlie's Angels movies, or just queer cinema, like D.E.B.S is a hell of a fun time. Like, oh man, there's a great scene where like the main spy girl who's starting the relationship with the mega villain, one of them catches her and she's like, she's like, it's not what you think. No, I think you're a slut. And she's like, no, it's not what you think. She's like, and a gay slut at that. It's like, I'm telling you, go find it. I think the DVD's a bit hard to find right now, but like, I'm sure if you check record stores or thrift shops or digitally, like you'll find it somewhere, because this thing deserves like a Criterion 4K. It is so much fun.
Yeah, I've heard it lauded along with But I'm a Cheerleader and movies like that.
It's that kind of like campy tone, but with like spy stuff. It's really the love story is genuinely sweet, like, and genuinely like believable. It's good.
Yeah, and speaking of movies with camp and a genuinely sweet romantic storyline, I also rewatched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 as a part of that re-release, and you know, it held up a lot better than I remembered. Like I saw it in high school and I was pretty disappointed, but now it's actually a pretty solid Spider-Man superhero movie.
Yeah, it's a bit bloated.
Oh yeah, it's definitely overstuffed due to the studio mandate, but it works a lot better than I remembered.
I always say like the Sandman was done so well in Spider-Man 3. It's really sad that like it kind of gets distracted with like 5 other villains. But
yeah, 3 villains is too many villains for one movie. That is a lesson that has been learned before.
Has it though? Because we still keep doing it.
But for what it is, Sam Raimi really managed to stick the landing for as best he could under the circumstances, because it does kind of bring the Mary Jane, Peter and Harry romantic subplot to a head, and also even though it was mandated, he did a pretty good job with Venom, and I like how it kind of moves around like a claw. And yeah, no, but the Sandman stuff, like the effects still look astounding. It's incredible. And also it has one of my favorite Bruce Campbell cameos where he's the snooty French waiter.
Yeah.
I
wonder if anybody's noticed all the different roles that Bruce Campbell has played in the Spider-Man movies. Just, hey, wait, that wrestling ring announcer is also the snooty French waiter, and he's also the street guy.
And then he's what is it in Doctor Strange Multiverse?
Pizza Papa.
Papa.
Some of the pizza balls, and then Doctor Strange makes him beat himself up because it's a Sam Raimi movie.
Nothing was better than going to see that Doctor Strange movie opening weekend and everyone sticking around for like the post-credit scene thinking they're setting something up, and it's just Bruce Campbell continuing to punch himself. And like seeing a room full of like, you could tell who was like the Sam Raimi fans and who were the Marvel fans, because like the Marvel people went like, And all the Raimi fans just like went fucking nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I did. I was just like, yes, Fort Campbell.
Well, let's spend the rest of the episode talking about Salem Horror Fest, which Jacob was at last weekend. How was that? What'd you see? See anything good?
Oh yeah, it was great. And I only got to attend the second weekend, and yeah, although there was a lot of good stuff at the first weekend, I wish I could have saw. And yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Salem Horror Fest. Last year, myself and director Rob Teamster had a short in the October Martyr. This year we were just attending because we like Salem Horror Fest, and I've got family nearby, so I just stayed with them. And
this is
went
Salem, Oregon, right?
No, Salem, Massachusetts. How dare you?
Sorry, couldn't resist.
But no, it's good. But yeah, I really do appreciate what Salem Horror Fest does, because it really gives foundation for a lot of up and coming, especially LGBTQ filmmakers and just in general horror filmmakers who are kind of working down to the wire. And it allows us to see a lot of interesting movies we would not otherwise be able to experience. And this year it was kind of split up across several different locations. Like they did some screenings at the Salem Public Access Television Building, and they did some screenings at this kind of goth clothing store called Die With Your Boots On, and they even had screenings at the Peabody Essex Museum. So I got a lot of exercise too, just running around.
Let's just take a second to appreciate that amazing name of a goth clothing store, Die With Your Boots On.
Oh yeah, no, it's great.
I mean, can you own a goth clothing store and not have like either the most ambiguous, like dark title like Obsidian or like something where it's like crazy like that? Like it's kind of like how every dog wash company has to be some form of a pun.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like if you're a dog washing company, you gotta have a pun. If you're a goth clothing store, you gotta just like be like one word, like bleak, or just like a play on words, with Die With Your Boots On. And they had some good boots.
Boot scoot and boogie down to Die With Your Boots On.
I was thinking the Iron Maiden song Die With Your Boots On, so that's the difference. Ooh. Boot scoot and boogie versus Die With Your Boots On.
Who grew up in the woods? How to tell who grew up in the woods without saying
who grew up as a little heavy metal hesher. Okay.
Sorry, ADHD.
But anyway, there were a lot of great films this year. I guess I could highlight a few. The first one I saw, and one that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since, is called Meltdown: A Nuclear Family's Ascension into Madness. And it's basically set sometime in the 50s, and it's about these two political families in this small town in the 1950s, and they're having a dinner party, but somebody has spiked the drinks with LSD, so they start to unwittingly trip balls, and a lot of darkness gets unleashed in the process. And it was a very kind of small production, like it almost felt like a stage show. And it can be best described as Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf on acid in the most literal sense. And it was by Colton Van Til, and I really dug it. There was a lot of interesting visuals as the family gets more and more into their trip. At the same time, there are also some funny lines, like this bit where one of the wives is listening to a record and saying, "This music is like speaking to me in Technicolor." So, and fun of that, but then gets intense too. Like this other guy who's running for mayor starts talking about in World War II how he was allowed a POW to celebrate Christmas with them, and then they had to fight over a gun, and it was really disturbing. It just resonated with me, and visually striking. So again, these are all festival movies. I'm not exactly sure when they're coming out, but definitely check them out on Letterboxd or put a bookmark on them, because there's going to be plenty of fascinating films coming out of Salem this year.
Are these shorts or features?
Not all of them. Although I did go to the shorts block and I did see some fun ones there. Like, there was this one called The Haunted Baby Carriage from Hell, which was about this gay couple that moves into a haunted house, and there's this like old-timey Victorian baby carriage that keeps on going around and bothering them, but it doesn't really do anything except bug them. So it just kind of ruins like their dinner parties, or just it makes people think that they're going to try and have a baby, which just kind of pisses them off. So it was a pretty funny horror comedy short. And there was this really cool stop motion animated movie called Mira by Eva Louise Hall, which was about a street performer who plays accordion, who becomes friends with a mysterious other street performer who does music, and it becomes kind of a reflection of like the starving artist, or like the pain of being a musician. And it had kind of the Harry Selick vibe to it. So it looked really cool and had a very spooky aesthetic. And let's see, in terms of Giallo Fair, there was a short Giallo throwback called Red Gloves, which was about a dance troupe in the 1980s in New York City, and the top dancer is being stalked by a person with red gloves. And I love the poster. Again, very throwbacky, and it even has a tagline, "Dance Yourself to Death," by Santiago Saba Salem.
Hell yeah, that sounds dope as hell.
Yeah, no, there's some amazing shorts in the block, and a couple more I particularly have to mention. There's one called The Lure, which puts the short in short. It's only 2 minutes, including credits, and it's by Tony Hipwell. It's about a guy going fishing at night, fly fishing, and he has his bait, and something happens. Don't want to give it away, but yeah, it's only 2 minutes, but it's managed to fit a couple scares and some laughs in that short time frame. And there was also an intervals block for like shorts that were 15 minutes or longer. So, they're not quite a feature, not quite a short. Probably my personal favorite is this one called Bounce House, which is about the apocalypse, like civilizations ended and almost everybody's dead. And it's about this girl who is just kind of riding out the apocalypse by herself, and she's living in she's playing around at a bounce house while like the world's ended around her. And then this survivalist girl meets up with her, and they kind of figure out what their next steps are, and also just kind of unwind from the apocalypse by just bouncing around a bounce house. And it's by Christopher J. Ewing and Kelly Blum. And again, just really kind of nailed that balance between horror and comedy. And yeah, if the world ends, why not just mess around with a bounce house while everything's falling apart around you. Also, really dug this kind of throwback period horror movie called The Thaw by Sean Temple and Sarah Wisner, which said in, John, I think you appreciate this as a New England horror. Basically, it's in 19th century Vermont. The winter's coming, and this family has this technique to survive the winter where they take kind of a sleeping potion in order to hibernate through the winter. But they only have enough for the parents, and the young daughter is going to have to try and survive the winter and take care of them. But like the dad gets thawed out too early, and it's not good. Like shit goes bad.
I'm always down for some New England horror, so I'm super down for that. Yeah.
I'm calling CPS on those parents. They're just going to go to sleep and leave their kid to fend for herself.
Well, like she's like a teenager, but still, yeah, it's like, especially the Vermont winter in the 1800s. It's not a fun time.
I ate like teenage in the 1800s. That's like mid 30s.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, it's a low,
that's true.
Low age of survivability. So, you got to grow up fast.
It's not selfish making your teenager work. I mean, that's just New England, It's, hey, you're old enough to work. Cool.
That's the equivalent of a middle-aged kid taking care of their elderly parents, I guess.
Pretty much.
Basically, yeah. I mean, as in that tradition, I mean, that mindset has been in New England since up until at least 2004 or so.
Pretty much.
We only just started matching everyone else's timeline once the internet got a little better, and around 2008, 2009 ish. That's when our dial-up really like picked up steam.
That's when you went from dial-up to DSL.
Oh, how times change.
We ran out of the AOL discs, the free trials, so all of New England had to update.
It's just how it goes. And let's see, there was this other great interval short called Scratch by Michael Trinati. It's basically about a father-son duo taking an RV out to the woods to, camp and bond. And it's a full moon. And I think you can imagine where I'm going with this. Like, a werewolf crashes their camp out. And
always.
Yeah, and it was a incredible really tightly wound werewolf horror story because it's just like father and son, like the keys are outside and the wolf's outside, but they have to somehow figure out a way to get the keys and stop the werewolf from getting in the RV. So it was a very well done survival story, and the effects on the werewolf itself, especially for a short, were very well done. And I saw mostly shorts, or like a big chunk of what I saw at Salem Horror Fest for that weekend were shorts. But there were I did see a few more features that were pretty cool. Like I personally like this very out there kind of neo-noir called Purgatory Jack, where is by Brett M. Butler and Jason G. Butler, the Butler brothers, and it's about this kind of afterlife where anybody who commits suicide is like in this kind of industrial wasteland, and it's kind of Casablanca area where like where it's like this 1920s detective who goes by the name Purgatory Jack does cases for new arrivals to this afterlife, and there's like an underworld, like a criminal underworld where these like bikers exchange in body parts because it's like they're all dead. So like a lot of them need new body parts. And this pop star dies and is trying to figure out why she's there. And also if somebody she knows is in purgatory. So it leads to this kind of caper because she's still not technically dead. And there's these rules where like, she's got enough life in her that all these other like dead people want to like get her life force. And like I'm always a fan of these types of kind of world building, supernatural, low budget movies, especially dealing with the afterlife. So it had a lot of charm, and there's a lot of amputation and bodily dismemberment. So, you can't go wrong there, especially with these mix of characters, because it's like you got a 1920s detective fighting these kind of Hell's Angels ghouls. And let's see, another highlight. There's this interesting kind of take on haunted house / home invasion movies called Ghost Game by Jill Gevargian. And it was produced by Eduardo Sanchez, who did the Blair Witch Project, and is written by horror writer Adam Cesare. And it's basically about these 20-somethings aimless slackers who decide to do this new internet challenge called the Ghost Game, where you break into people's houses and you pretend to be a ghost. So you like mess with the people inside and like you move stuff, or you readjust the like temperatures on the water heater, just like mess with stuff so that they think that their house is haunted. And like this group of kind of amateur ghost gamers decide to do this in a haunted house where this or like an allegedly haunted house where this author and his family are moving in so he can work on his new novel. And it was very interesting. Like it played with the subgenre so much you couldn't tell like where it was going into either territory, and also like where the subversions lied. Also had a fantastic opening cameo by Dr. Rebecca McKendry like talking about the haunted house in question as kind of a like a documentarian. So always good to have that.
That sounds like my kind of like messing with people, just like little slight moving stuffs and little mischievouses.
Is that a feature?
Yeah, it's a feature. It's being released by Dread.
Oh, cool. Okay, good. So we'll be able to see that soon. Okay. Yeah, because that sounds good.
Yeah, again, these are all just festival circuit movies, so they'll be out sooner or later. Let's see, and I got a couple more. Are you guys familiar with the works of Alice Mayo McKay?
Sounds familiar.
Well, yeah, she's a trans filmmaker from Australia, and yeah, she's done a ton of feature-length movies, despite being so young. Like she did T Blockers, So Vam, Bad
Yes.
Boogie.
Yeah, I just saw T Blockers the other day. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I was like, that name sounds really familiar. I think I just saw something. I love T Blockers. So this is a new one from her?
Yeah, and it's funny. I saw T Blockers at last year's Salem Horror Fest. So yeah, Alice is really keeping her movies coming in through Salem Horror Fest. And yeah, no, it's a Christmas slasher about a true crime podcaster who goes back to her hometown for Christmas to see her sister, and she's trans, and it's like this small kind of backwater town. So like people keep on giving her shit, and there's also this like kind of urban legend about a toy maker who dresses as Santa Claus and went on a killing spree. And when she comes back, the killings begin again. And so she decides to investigate and try and figure out who the real killer is. And yeah, it was a fun setup. It was, Christmas slashers are a classic plot line, but I think it really stood out on its own. Like there's even like some kind of small town horror because like deals with like just kind of the general assholes who run the town, and like her kind of uniting with her friends to try and stop the killings. Also, it was edited by the People's Joker's Vera Drew, which really added to kind of the more fantastical qualities to it, especially when there's like a flashback or like dream or nightmare sequence. And you basically got a dude in a creepy ceramic Santa Claus mask and red suit going around smashing people with a hammer.
That's awesome. I love T Blockers a lot, and just like a lot of the indie films that are being made by trans filmmakers, and how they're getting so good. And I love seeing filmmakers like her who are just like getting better with each film. It makes me really hopeful that someday we might get a Manhunt TV show like Last of Us. I don't if you Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin.
Oh yeah. I've heard about it.
Oh man, dude, all I want is like a big budget TV adaptation of that and video games, because I think it would be cool. Granted, it's a very graphic book, but it would be incredible.
I've seen the cover and it is very suggestive.
Oh, the end of the world is nuts. Yeah, the fruit bag. Yeah, there's a lot of testicle stuff in there. It's great.
Okay. The last thing I did at Salem Horror Fest was attend a repertory screening of Tales from the Crypt Presents Demon Night, which was co-hosted by the podcasts Girl That's Scary and Blurty Masker podcast, and they did an episode which they called Girl That's a Massacre. So it was kind of fun on that, but it was just really cool that they were able to screen Demon Night in a place like the Peabody Essex Museum. So that like it was a good screening area, and also just I don't know, there's something funny about seeing something like Demon Night at a museum. And it was also fun for me in particular because Rob had never seen Demon Night before, and I'd also invited a bunch of friends of mine from high school who were still nearby to come with us to watch it. So I got to see it with a bunch of people who'd never seen before. And just in general, Demon Night is such a blast with a crowd. So it's always a good time, especially Billy Zane, just humans, you're not worth the flesh you're printed on.
Oh man, dude. Ernest Dickerson is one of the like unsung masters.
Oh yeah.
Like everything. Surviving the Game. I mean, come on.
Bones. He did Bones. That movie rules.
Bones is so fucking good.
It sure is.
Not yeah. Yeah, I have huge praise for him and all the work he's done. But yeah, Demon Knight especially is just it's so much fun. It set the bar too high for the Tales from the Crypt movies.
Yeah, kind of a downward spiral, with Bordello of Blood, which fun in its own ways, but not as good as Demon Knight.
And then Ritual, which
Oof,
I feel like that one they slapped on the name after it. Almost,
I'm pretty sure they
like.
did.
It feels like it, yeah.
Yeah. So again, Salem Horror Fest is one of my favorite horror film festivals. Made it out again this year, and hopefully I'll make it out next year because they always got a great selection. And I got to give a big shout out to Kay. She's doing a fantastic job running the fest, and can't wait to see what the future holds.
Kay rules. We're big fans.
Oh yeah.
All right. And with that, let's call this one an episode. But before we go, we do need to do one quick shout out. And I don't know how Correia feels about this, but our buddy Glenn Douglas Packard is going to be directing, what is it, Mickey versus Winnie? Is that
Yep.
what?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you don't know how Correia feels about this. My buddy's making a movie. I'm excited.
No, but I know how you were kind of anti Winnie the Pooh or the Blood and Honey. What I see this as is basically this is an inevitable movie. As soon as Steamboat Willie went public domain, someone was going to make this, and I'm glad it's Glenn, and I'm glad it's happening this soon. It's like we're just like, let's get this out there now.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
I don't know how Glenn and Anthony kept that secret from us, but like, I was just like, what the hell, guys? I had to learn from Dateline you're making a movie?
Deadline, yeah.
Thanks.
I know, that's awesome. But anyway, keep an eye out for that. Glenn Douglas Packard. Is it an iHorror production or is Anthony?
I believe so. I mean, they're producing it, I think.
I mean, I know Anthony's producing it, but yeah. That's the way I see it is this movie's inevitable, and I'm glad that Glenn's getting to make it because it's gonna be awesome.
I've been harassing him for years. When's his follow up to Pitchfork gonna happen? I did not expect this to be the follow up, but
hey, this is what Alien versus Predator, Freddy versus Jason. Now you got Mickey versus Winnie.
It's gonna be a fun time.
It's going to be good. So, okay. And with that, we'll call this an episode. So our theme song is by Restless Spirit. So go give them a listen. And our artwork is by Chris Fisher. So go give him a look. And you can find us on any of the socials under Eye on Horror or at iHorror.com, which you can also find the latest on Mickey versus Winnie. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. So for me, James J. Edwards.
I'm Jacob Davison.
I'm Jonathan Correia.
Keep your eye on horror.